the Los Angeles Clippers. This team was supposed to be one of the best teams in the NBA. And you know what? Regardless of what happened last night, I still think that they are. The paper champions of 2020 eliminated from the 2020 NBA playoffs. Look, I won't sit here and lie and say I saw this coming, because I thought there was no way the Nuggets would come back from 3-1 again, not twice. When have we ever seen a team come back from 3-1 twice? Wait, that's right, we never have. And also, when have we seen a coach blow multiple 3-1 leads? Wait, that's right again. We have never seen anything like this before. It's just absolutely absurd to me. If you would have told me Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and a team that was good before these players arrived would not be able to close out the Denver Nuggets in a 3-1 series, I would simply sit there and tell you were lying to me. Before we go any further, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You will not want to miss another Get Like Coop video. And that's facts. Guys, it would mean a lot if you could support my Twitch. The link to my Twitch is going to be in the description below. Also, if you are an NFL fan, be sure to subscribe to my NFL channel. The link is also in the description below. Finally, dropping a like on this video helps out so much, so be sure to like it up. And again, appreciate all of the support you guys have been showing on my content. It absolutely means the world to me. Now, let's talk the Los Angeles Clippers. Some very deep problems surrounding this team. I actually talked about a few of them in yesterday's video. Now, with that being said, I feel like a lot of their problems aren't being talked about, and yesterday's video was a much more candid, emotional response. In this video, you're going to be getting a lot more of a composed and a natural me, and also you're going to be getting some facts. And again, you're going to be getting some things that other people might not be talking about or touching on. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the expectations of the Los Angeles Clippers. I feel like for me, everybody on the roster of the Los Angeles Clippers, the expectations were championship or absolutely nothing. Anything short of a championship would be a failure for this season. Well, you see, what I just said right there, Paul George would now disagree with you. Yesterday, Paul George said this on the title expectations after the Game 7 loss to the Denver Nuggets. The fact of the matter is we didn't live up to that expectation. But I think internally, we've always felt this is not a championship or bust year for us. We just didn't have enough time together. But wait, Paul George said this about joining the Clippers. Immediately, we expect to come in and win it all. Immediately, the first thing that comes to mind from Paul George saying this is, does he know his contract is up next year? Does he know that Kawhi Leonard has a contract that is also up next year? And if he does he also understand that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George himself are not getting any younger, and the West is only going to become tougher and tougher? The path to a championship, I'm not going to say it was easy this year by any means, because you see everything that's happened in the bubble. But when you're up 3-1, you have to close it out. There's no way around it. When you go up 3-1, most of the hard work is out of the way. You're up 3-1, right? Just one more game. You won 3 already. You can win one more. The question is, will you? Did the Clippers? No. So it's on to the next season.
You can't even say we want to change our roster. We like what we got. I mean, we've been saying it all year. It's just chemistry, being together. The more we can be together, the better we will be. Year one.
Now, remember what I just said about Paul George and Kawhi and their age. The clock is ticking for them, not just for them. Now, a clock is ticking on the entire roster. Now, you start to see people look at Doc Rivers a little differently. And again, Doc Rivers is a great coach, but he has some really questionable moments on his resume, and there's no way around that. A little surprised to see the Clippers decide to run it back, but of course, this is a team that's been complaining about chemistry. You want better chemistry? You need some continuity. Man, look at what the Clippers are doing. Now it feels like I'm making excuses for the Clippers because the team on the other side of LA, the Los Angeles Lakers, they apparently didn't need much continuity. This team hit the ground running. There were people questioning LeBron and his work ethic. There were people wondering how all of the Lakers' pieces were going to fit together. Well, I have to say they have done a phenomenal job, and I'm not sure their chemistry could be any higher. I mean, it's honestly absurd because we've heard so many people question the type of leader LeBron is. I can't tell you guys how many times I've seen somebody call LeBron toxic or a bad teammate. There were even times this was going on in Los Angeles. It's crazy to think about. So let me clarify my comments. You don't need continuity for chemistry, but if you're a team that's struggling with chemistry, continuity could help. So, why did I bring up chemistry? Who on the Clippers said anything about chemistry? Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi said the Clippers have to get smarter, and he said this repeatedly. That's when it comes to team chemistry. Knowing what we should run to get the ball in spots, or just if someone's getting doubled, or even if they're packing the paint. We have to get smarter as a team. The basketball IQ has to get better. First off, I would like to say again, don't think the Clippers lost this series because of chemistry. And if you're a player who wants your team to have more chemistry, you should maybe try playing more games with your two best players. Look, injuries happen and they're very unfortunate, but this load management stuff, it has its downsides. The Toronto Raptors last year, they won a championship with Kawhi Leonard. You could argue that there was a lot of load managing going on in Toronto, and there was a whole lot of load managing going on in Toronto. But the thing is, the Raptors were good enough to overcome. This unit was so cohesive. I talked about this a little bit in yesterday's video. It's not that the Raptors weren't put in a tough spot with Kawhi Leonard, because they were. It's just that the team was that good. They were that bought into the system. You know, I said this yesterday. This was a Raptors team that was a few bounces away. This is a Raptors team that was a few bounces away from the Eastern Conference Finals. It's really ironic that the Raptors are this good because there were many reasons Kawhi decided to go to Los Angeles, but one of those reasons is that Kawhi told the Raptors when he met in Toronto last summer, at least according to a source, that he didn't think they were going to be good enough to repeat. This is a very serious question. Separate the rosters of the Toronto Raptors and the Los Angeles Clippers. In a playoff series, would you rather Pascal Siakam as your number 2, or would you rather Paul George? Leave a comment on this down below. Now, also to touch back about what I was talking about the clock ticking and the roster, everybody is now becoming a movable part. Well, I'm not sure Kawhi is on the same page as Paul George when it comes to talking about the long-term future of this franchise. Because if they're not winning next season, you could see a guy like Paul George potentially get traded. You could see some of their core members potentially on the trading block. And it's absurd to say because this is a team that was supposed to be so good. This is a team that was supposed to be a super team. But this is now becoming the reality for the Los Angeles Clippers. When that trade deadline comes around and the Clippers aren't playing high-level basketball, or they're not as good as they expect to be, who's to say Paul George doesn't become available for the highest bidder? Who's to say they don't try another star around Kawhi Leonard? I really didn't talk about this enough in my previous Clippers video, but when I say I don't think the main reason the Clippers lost was chemistry, that's because Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were so bad in the fourth quarter that you could make a major argument that they lost because of them. Yes, I know Zubac should have been playing over Montrez. Yes, I know Lou Will was a liability. Yes, I know Doc Rivers was getting out-coached in a major way. But when your star players don't score in the fourth quarter, it's hard. It's very hard, especially when this is a team who is so reliant on these two players being good. 0 points, 0 of 11, 0 of 7 from the three-point line. I mean, it's inexcusable, especially when you take into account how bad the Nuggets defense looked in the last round of the playoffs. The Nuggets defense has been questionable all year. At times it's looked very good. They went through a slump where it looked very bad. Now, I also saw reports that the Clippers had several players that were so fatigued during Game 7 against Denver that they struggled to play stints longer than 3 minutes and asked out of the game for a breather in the fourth quarter. That's actually ridiculous, because the Nuggets came from playing a 7-game, hard-fought, heart-wrenching series against the Utah Jazz. The Clippers had every chance to end this series in 5 games. I want to say one final thing. Could you imagine what LeBron James would look like in the playoffs if he actually believed in load management? Load managing is a great luxury, but man, I know it would make LeBron's playoff stats be even crazier. Let me know what you guys think about everything down in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe. Click the video on the screen right now. I'm GetLikeCoop, and I'm out.